Today, on a very special Master and Apprentice, we're partnering with Blizzard
to create Thunderfury, blessed blade of the Windseeker.
Wow.
This is Marcus Laporte. For the last 17 years, Marcus has been working in the film industry as a production designer, art director, and prop fabricator.
And this is Adam Ellis, a novice cosplayer and the systems administrator for Rooster Teeth, production company we work for.
We're going to show you what it takes to make professional level props from your favorite movies and video games.
And teach you the tricks that pros use that you can do at home.
This is Master and Apprentice.
Adam, today you picked the build, and you're clearly very excited about it. Tell me a little more about what you chose.
All right, so Blizzard gave us an opportunity to make whatever weapon we wanted from all of World of Warcraft, and immediately I yelled at you and I said, Thunderfury! And the reason is because it's something I've been chasing since I was like 15.
Yeah.
It's an incredibly rare sword. To get it in the original game, you needed 39 other friends, you needed a lot of luck, and I'm hoping that today we can make one in real life so I don't have to wait any longer.
So Thunderfury is a legendary sword. It hits your target with lightning, and then it bounces lightning to any nearby foes. This sword was a beast when it was first released, and it was the only weapon to have this kind of effect when it came out.
Marcus, I won't lie to you. This build, I'm excited for it, but there's a lot of scary parts. You have like sharp, clean facets, you have compound curves, you have a ball of lightning in the middle of it. So I want to get it right, and I'm a little nervous about the build as a whole.
Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong here. This build's pretty intense. It's about an 8 or a 9 out of 10 on the build scale. Usually we're starting with 2D images or 3D images that we can find online. But today, because we've partnered with Blizzard,
we are going to Blizzard's campus in Irvine, California. We're gonna meet with some of the original quest designers of Thunderfury, people that worked on Thunderfury when it was like they made it. We're gonna get some in-depth details about it, some lore, and we're gonna have a good time at Blizzard campus. So we should leave right now.
This is Illidan. He had a big part in the last expansion.
it looks really scary.
Holy cow. This is Queen of Blades,
really
formerly Sarah Kerrigan.
I really want to touch it, but I won't. Oh, it's soft. Oh,
That's wild.
Dude. That's cool. This is like some kind of silicone, I bet.
We are here with Alex Afrasiabi, who is the creative director on World of Warcraft. And Alex actually made the quest for Thunderfury.
Yeah.
All right, so tell me a little bit about the materials. This is some sort of a metal sword, yes?
Absolutely a metal sword.
Okay.
Elementium, in
There
fact.
you go.
So this is an elementium. It's a metal of the elements, right?
That's great, because that's kind of where we were thinking we would be focusing the finish for the blade itself. We're going to do a metallic finish on it, so that's great. Seeing as elementium is somewhat fictitious, I bet we could draw a conclusion saying that enough electrolysis along the edge of the
Galvanized
handle,
it.
might have added some sort of, like a chemical reaction, like kind of like a copper.
That's canon.
Okay, awesome. I just made up a cannon in World of Warcraft.
Why is there lightning in the center of the sword?
Well, so in order to finally kind of get the weapon, you have to defeat Thunderon, the Prince of Air. Once you do, it's his essence that powers up the blade. It's that thunder essence.
I think right now we're researching plasma balls, plasma discs. We're gonna do our best to try to recreate that little sort of thunderous lightning ball that's in the middle.
Well, if you can't get an elemental lord, this will do.
Right. The funny thing is, this will still not take as long as it takes to get Thunderfury.
I think you're right.
Wow.
Holy cow.
This one's real metal, I can see. It's like solid steel.
These are all real metal.
Yeah, they're all real. You don't normally see as high of a polish on metal swords, especially in Warcraft. So this is like a finish that I'm not used to seeing.
It's a more realistic finish.
Yeah, it's more
cool.
shiny and realistic, and that's kind of what we're after for Thunderfury. It's going to be tough to get the balsa wood to be that shiny, so I think what we're going to have to do is clear coat it first.
A lot,
yeah, and get it glassy, smooth, super shiny, and then once we've done that, we can put the chrome on, and we should get pretty close. All right.
Wow, dude, look at this thing.
Pretty big. We've got some good stuff. I think we're ready to build.
Marcus, that was an amazing trip.
Agreed. I feel like we learned so much on that trip that we can confidently move into this build. Still gonna be a challenge, but I've got this thing broken down into as few steps as possible.
Great.
So the good news is we've already got our R&D done. So as you can see, Blizzard has been cool enough to send us home with the 3D models and the renders that we printed out. Our next step is to cut our blade out of balsa wood and reinforce it with resin. And for that, we're gonna need a few different saws, some acetone, and some 2-part resin. We're then going to take a break while it dries to make the spikes that you see at the bottom of the blade. For that, we're gonna need some modeling clay and some silicone for mold making. Then we're gonna come back and paint the blade with some automotive primer and clear coat. Make sure to have your respirator this stuff's pretty volatile. From there, we're gonna move on and make our hilt out of PVC, 2-part epoxy, and more balsa wood. We're also going to need some googly eyes and some paint too, obviously. From there, we're going to rewire our plasma ball with some wire nuts and some insulated wire. And finally, we will put it all together and use our airbrush and metallic wax paint to finish it off. So we have our block of balsa wood, we have our template laid out, we have this broken down into the main high points and ridges of this form. Since we have a block material, we're going to trace this along the top. We're also going to trace it along the bottom after we make some initial cuts, and then that's going to give us a really good idea of where to start. We're going to use a wax pencil here. The reason we're using the wax pencil is because it's not going to damage the balsa wood. All right, so the last thing we need to do is mark the center line. We're gonna cut this thing in half, and the reason is because we wanna be able to have access to this inner edge.
Gotcha, and we'll just join them back together later on?
We are.
Understood.
This is a really important line. We wanna make sure that this one's perfect.
Okay.
You're getting it now, dude. So what we're doing here is we're marking the side profile. Once we've marked this wedged line, we're gonna take this thing back over the bandsaw. We're gonna make 2 more cuts on each of these sides, so 4 more cuts. And that's gonna give us the taper in the blade. You don't ever wanna be like this, you know? Very nice.
Messed up a little bit.
That's okay, we'll fix that.
Okay.
We'll fix it.
Ready to put some facets in this?
Yeah, we're pretty close. And this is the hardest part of the whole build. So adding any sort of faceting or chamfering to an object can be a challenge. What we're trying to do here is mark all the center lines around the object on both sides, and then also mark the facet line. When we go to make the cut, we want to follow both the center line and the facet line. Feeling good? Should we do this? You ready to do this?
Feeling nervous, but
Why don't you let me do a couple of runs?
Yeah, I definitely want to like work with you on this.
You can watch me and understand. We're following 2 cut lines here, which is pretty difficult, and many times when you cut the facet off, you will have removed the facet lines from other planes. You will need to redraw them in order to know where your new facet line is going to be. So take your time and work with a partner if you can to help maintain all your planes.
We're coming in here with a block that's flat and level to level out these facets. Is there any time, either around the corners or whatever, where we'd want to come in with our hands and just a regular piece of sandpaper to sand?
The reason we're not going to use our hands is because they actually create scallops here, and our hand really isn't as flat as we think it is. So in order to make sure all these angles are correct, we want to use a flat object as much as possible. At the very, very end, if you decide you want to roll some of those edges and give that slightly organic quality, you can do that.
This looks awesome, man. I'm super duper excited about it.
Got some dust in your beard.
Much appreciated.
All right, we've got this to a point that we can probably put the resin on.
Okay.
Many 2-part resins require equal parts. However, in this instance, our catalyst is this tiny dropper that we're going to be using to mix into a much larger amount of resin. We're going to also be using some acetone to thin this resin down so that it'll seep into all the cracks and crevices. You're gonna see it's gonna kind of soak in. You can move on. The mix here on this one is about 25% thinner versus 75% of the resin product. Basically, the reason we're using this resin is because this is gonna soak in, and it's gonna add so much structure to the balsa wood and do all the hard work for us as far as the structure. You always wanna go full coverage first.
Okay.
Fix later.
This part should only take about 15 to 30 minutes to cure depending on heat, but we can move on to something else and come back to the blade later.
This right here is pretty representative of this, I don't even know what to call this, maybe a hilt piece or a handguard piece.
Yeah.
We basically are going to need to do a bunch of layout lines on this, drill a bunch of holes,
Done.
and run this through the bands. Oh, well that's convenient.
So after this?
Yeah, these are our layout lines. This is the template that we would normally use here. You can kind of see we kind of went around and did this on every side. For the hole, we used a Forstner bit on a drill press here to do most of the coring, and our PVC handle should thread right through this. You could do this with a hand drill.
Gotcha, so holes and then bandsaw cuts. I've already done that as well.
Oh, very good.
There you go.
So once we get it to this point, we would want to sort of soften these edges and put the resin on.
I was just kidding. Yeah, we had all these done, and the reason for that is because we've done most of these processes on the blade, and we wanted to just show you from start to finish.
We're here with our pieces. They look pretty good. What do you think?
Yeah, dude.
Should we hold them up?
Yeah.
What do you think?
That looks pretty darn incredible.
We have a Thunderfury happening here.
Man.
We want our handle to be inside of a portion of this because it's gonna add a ton of structure. We're gonna use a scalloped gouge here, a wood gouge. Just always be careful with placement of the, the meaty part of your hand,
Totally.
because this could really get you.
Seems really, really sharp.
We spray glued a piece of sandpaper to a piece of PVC pipe the same diameter as our handle. So not only do we have a constant reference here, but it should give us the perfect fit. It's pretty good.
Yeah, that's great. That's perfect. You did a great job. We did a great job
All right,
together.
now you're gonna do
I'm doing the whole other one. You're watching me.
all by yourself.
All right. It sits pretty flat. Ah,
I think that looks
look
great.
at that. This looks amazing, dude.
There you go. We're gonna start with the epoxy to start the initial glue up. The idea is to get this back into one piece and get it looking as good as possible. This is 5-minute epoxy, so we have to work kind of fast. And it's gonna start solidifying and closer to 3. I'm gonna put
Can you put,
I'm gonna get some screws.
I just have epoxy where I'm putting this down. I don't want to glue it to the table.
It's gonna be okay.
Okay.
Okay, bring the 2 halves together.
Okay. All right, let me know where you like
We have
it.
to do this very fast.
Yep, I'm with you.
It looks great. All right, let's flip it over. We're gonna use these clamps on each corner and give this a little extra love.
I'm not going terribly tight,
Yep,
right?
nope, they're just kinda, I'm feeling like this is looking pretty good, Adam.
Yeah, so we just let it sit for a minute?
Yeah, we can. We're gonna let the epoxy dry. Sight lines are pretty okay. All right,
This 2-part epoxy putty we're using is really fast curing. You can mix it together like modeling clay until it's a uniform color, and then we use our fingers to form it. Then we spray it with some water to make it just a little more pliable.
this is a really great way to do a lot of gap filling without having to use a product that's really thin and goopy.
And this like
So-
sets up pretty quickly.
Yeah, this is already hard.
Yeah. It's crazy.
Yeah. So from here, we're going to add some Automotive body filler, which is going to do the same thing as the epoxy putty, but can cover a lot more area for us, and we'll sand it smooth. We took all the time to make this perfect, and now we're going to kind of mess it up.
You see a lot of scarring around the high points of the blade.
It looks kind of like there's some burns on
Yeah.
here. We're going to work with our full-size reference. All we really need to do is find the area where these are and just sort of start making some marks. You want the first hit?
No, God no.
All right. Some
Making it
creases.
dent, oof, hurts me inside.
Get a little something a little heavier duty. It's gonna feel wrong.
Oof.
Once we've put the linear marks in, we're gonna soften this up with some other sculpting tools. Can you see how it's
See,
already?
yours looks good. I think if I did this, I'll mess it up.
You'll be fine. This is a subtle effect here, which is why we're not using heavy duty tools. We're using hand tools that are fairly small.
Can I make a smaller cut than normal? Is that okay?
That looks great. No,
Great.
you want subtlety of all kinds. We are ready to prime this thing. We're gonna use a respirator. This is the kind of thing that needs to be done in a well-ventilated area. We're using a Automotive grade primer. It happens to be black this time because we want it to be black for the chrome paint.
All right.
Okay.
It's all evenly cooked.
Burnt all the way around now. We'll let this dry and then we'll come back and do some more. I think the blade is far enough along.
Okay.
Let's swap work surfaces. Let's go ahead and get this one out of here and
Alrighty.
fly in a new one.
All right, Marcus. I brought us some dinner.
Oh,
Some for you, some for me.
Oh, no.
Delicious.
No thanks.
What is this?
This is a sulfur-free plastiline clay. This clay we're using for mold making. We want to put silicone on it. Silicone is really sensitive to sulfur. If we don't use a sulfur-free clay, the silicone's likely not to set up on the surface detail.
So now that we have our clay, we're gonna sculpt some spikes. Is that what we're doing here?
Yep, make some spikes.
How much clay do we need? This much?
About that. I mean, this is our tooth right here.
Yeah, all right.
We're making the rough shape of our spikes and then using sculpting tools to refine the details that we want to see in our final mold. The clay spike is only being used here to make a negative mold. Later, we're going to add a different material to the mold to form our final spikes. Some of these spikes will be mounted on a 90-degree edge on the handle of the sword, so we'll need to cut a notch for them to fit properly.
That looks pretty darn good.
We're going to take another piece of clay, which would be known as a sprue, and we're going to put a little bit on the bottom, and that'll kind of stand it up off the ground. We're going to use a cup and cover this up. We're going to hot glue around it, and we'll pour the silicone on top so that when it sits here, silicone is sure to cover every direction of the spike. We're using equal parts of a 2-part silicone for our mold. feeling pretty good.
Solid.
There's our silicone mold. I'm gonna make a cut here, I'm gonna make a cut here, and then that'll give us a little bit of enough stretch so we can like pry it open.
Sure.
There we go. Now we have a negative form of this.
This spike.
Yep.
Now that we have our mold, we're gonna make a casting. Are we doing this like normal, just like a resin? Or are we doing something different like foam?
What we're gonna do is do like a skin coat of a flexible urethane that is an 80 durometer plastic, basically. The durometer is kind of the key variant there. So you can get rubber that's really soft, that would have a really low number, and you could have a really high number, and that would be a hard rubber versus a soft rubber. We're gonna pour a little in, and we're gonna pour a little out.
Okay.
And as we do that, it's gonna leave a really nice skin coat on the inside. We're gonna do rotational casting, which just means we are rotating the mold as it's cast in there. So you can kind of see as this is turning, the material is thickening and clinging to the outside. And this just makes sure that our casting maintains hollowed so that we can pour foam in this afterwards.
You have your skin coat of urethane.
Yep, it's been about 5-10 minutes.
So now we need our interior, which is our flexible foam.
Correct.
So I'm gonna mix this up, we're gonna pour it, and then it's gonna expand out.
Yeah.
There's no time to waste.
Correct, you have about 10 to 15 seconds to mix this and pour this, maybe less.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, scrape the sides. Scrape the sides, scrape the bottom.
Yep, scraping the bottom.
Okay, scrape the sides one more time.
It's getting hot.
Okay, go.
I see movement. It's happening. Well, this has been the most satisfying experience ever.
We made a little too much foam here.
It's like a cool mushroom, though.
Yeah, it
I'm
looks
sure
cool.
we'll use that for something.
But you can see this foam is real flexible, and right now it's still sensitive.
Don't ruin it, don't ruin it!
Okay, fine.
It's fine.
Even though we only showed you this process once, normally we would have all our molds here together, doing all these processes all at once so that we could guarantee that the color was correct and the foam was the same.
So what do we have left? All right.
We have primed this with a black primer that we know is already giving us that deep dark color that we want for the chrome, and we're gonna make it super shiny with a clear glamour gloss. This is not just like any other spray paint. This is a catalyzed paint. So there's a tiny capsule in the bottom of this can. We're gonna use this plastic stopper that's in the cap. We're gonna put it in the bottom and we're gonna press it. It's gonna pop the capsule and it's gonna release the catalyst that is gonna harden this clear coat. The key here is to coat everything as quickly as possible, as evenly as possible. And that glossy, clear coat that you see on a car that's so tough and durable, it's exactly this item.
All right, man. Well, that looks seriously incredible. It's a hard, like, plastic shell on the outside.
Yep, looking pretty great. This is a really nice surface for us to be able to put the chrome on tomorrow.
Sounds good.
All right.
Okay. Is our clear coat dry?
It looks like it. Don't touch it. So our next 3 steps are going to be to take this existing black surface, we're gonna turn it chrome, so the whole thing looks like metal.
Oh, man. All right. Oh, boy.
That's about there.
Oh, my God. It looks so great, dude.
It's pretty nice. This is how important the shiny finish is before the chrome goes on. We're masking out the pieces that we want to stay chrome and pulling out the blue paint. Something we want to try to recreate here is the light that the lightning casts on and around the sword. You'll often hear artists refer to this refracted light as caustics.
After we remove the masking tape, we'll come back with a little bit of airbrushing around the nick marks to get a chart effect. We're actually using an off-the-shelf plasma ball to replicate the essence of Thunderon effect, which is awesome looking, plus the base of our plasma ball is almost an exact match for the base of our hilt.
We have used some industrial grade glue called Plexus, and we have put this reducer in here, and this allows us to attach to the handle that we're using, right?
This will be the bottom of the sword.
Yeah, exactly. So at this point, all we need to do now is extend the wire. Also, anytime you're using electricity, you want to make sure to respect it, do the research on what's inside so that you're safely working with it.
Ready? Mm-hmm. Hey, look at that.
There you go.
So we took the hilt piece, we primed it, we battle damaged it, and then we pulled the spikes fresh from the mold, and I think they turned out great. All right, well, let's figure out how long we need to cut this thing, cut it down to size, and start maybe putting some of these pieces together.
Yeah, that should go there. We'll put one of those on.
This piece is a little tight.
Some googlies. It needs to be tight.
Okay, we made it. Looks pretty darn close.
We're gonna plexus in some of these PVC pieces. We will put our little googly eyes here along the edge. Put 4 of those on.
I need to use this arm to paint. I don't want to spray paint my arm. I don't need that much masking tape.
We good.
To paint the hilt, we're using a metallic acrylic paint. The metal fleck is going to help sell the illusion that our plastic and wood is actually metal.
What's cool about this technique is you can really mess your brush up so that when you go and do this technique, it doesn't leave a perfect edge. We're stippling on 2 to 3 different colors of metallic paint here, which should add a lot of texture and depth to our handle. So I'm using the metallic wax product to go over all the little high spots and ridges. And by doing this, I'm creating some fake highlights and some three-dimensionality where there really isn't any. By the time we're done, it should feel really three-dimensional, even though we've got a fairly flat surface. Everything's looking really, really great right now. I'm pretty excited about this finish. It's time to wrap some leather. We're using 2 different colors of Mylar-coated leather, cut into 3/4-inch strips, and then superglued and spiraled onto the PVC pipe handle. So finally, we are going to put on the finishing touches. On the spikes, we're going to be laying on some brown spray paint and then wiping it off with some acetone to give it an aged look.
Marcus, this thing looks absolutely amazing. I was concerned about a lot of things on this build. The sharp facets, making balsa wood look like metal. We have lightning.
We did pretty good, and the handle looks nice. I think we did a really nice job of sort of blending the 2 worlds, but it fits the game, it fits their brand perfectly.
This is the most beautiful prop we've made.
Thanks to Blizzard for having us out.
Go check out the new World of Warcraft expansion, Battle for Azeroth. And if you took on the quest to make your own Thunderfury, let us know in the comments.
Thanks for watching Master and Apprentice.
Well, we've had a long day, man. Let's get out of here.